Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, 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 boom. Hey, how you doing? How are you feeling? We are back with another fantastic episode of Find Your Freedom. Now, you already know that we have to make sure that we give you something that's going to allow you to find your freedom. So we put together a freedom kit. It's easily downloadable. All you do is just go to www.findyourfreedomrei.com/freedom kit. That's right, www.findyourfreedomrei.com for freedom kit. Now, we're about to get into an amazing interview here. You know, we have a real estate investor, which he's an owner, he's an operator, you know, and what he does is, or one of the things, and many things he handles is he helps passive income investors maximize their returns. Who don't want that, right? You know, he mentors thousands of people in the STR space, right? But most importantly, he's a family guy. And that's very important to know. We're going to jump into this. So, Fouad Bazzi, what's up, brother? How you feeling, man?
Yo. I'll save the boom for the end.
There you go. Hey, Fouad, man, for the listeners, if you could give just a little background on yourself, that would be fantastic.
No doubt. So left the corporate world in 2019, 20-year corporate banker, consulted banks, wore a suit to work every day, buttoned up my tie and did all that. And, and I loved it. Frankly, I had an awesome job, guys, to be honest with you. I was a bank consultant. So I I spent 70% of my time with bank C-suite on golf courses and in sports stadiums and at dinners and conferences, right? So I had a great gig where I got to build deep and enduring relationships. But a couple of things. We had our third kid, and I was on the road a lot, 12 weeks out of the year at least. I was in an airplane going somewhere, and I really I wanted to be here for my kids. I mean, my kids are now 8, 7, and 3. At the time, they were 4, 3, and newborn, and so that was one. I really wanted to be here for my kids, but B, I also knew there was more. I mean, I knew that the impact I was making in my industry was great, and I knew that if I took control and did it for myself, that I could even make a bigger and more impactful impact, financially, of course, but more important than financially, also, just from from helping others out perspective. So back, got into entrepreneurship. My wife is an attorney. She has her own firm right here in Detroit, Michigan, and so that the firm was producing way more than it had been when she started it 10 years ago, and way more than I was in corporate, so that I was able to then become kind of the risky one once we got debt free, say, let's open some local businesses, get into real estate, and bunch of left turns has led me to short-term rental space, and I've fallen in love, and I'm never looking back.
I mean, I love the fact that, you're a power couple. So, it's, and then you have the flexibility. It's, a lot of people won't take the risk, especially, you're at a certain point in your career, you put in all the time. A lot of people have that mentality of like they're in too deep and you got the golden handcuffs. But I think it's just like reprioritizing. Even for myself, when COVID happened, I started spending a lot more time with my kids, because before I'd wake up early before they were up. I'd be home towards the end of the day, and I wouldn't spend that much time with them. And so I think it just kind of helps you to reprioritize things. So walk me through like how you like ended up purchasing a place in Long Beach, and maybe the story behind that. I mean, not Long Beach, Huntington Beach, and how you how you transitioned into short-term rentals.
Yeah. So first, I was a terrible landlord. I had a long-term rental, and I was the guy that would get the call, hey, my wife and I are separating, we got 2 kids and we can't make payment. Dude, I'm not kicking anybody out of their house, especially if you got kids. Like, it's not happening. I got to sleep good at night. I got 3 kids, and I could only dread having that same phone call, right? That's not happening. So it was like, okay, take your time, get your feet under you, take as much time as you need, but we got to have a date. So what's a fair date? 6 months? Cool. 6 months, and you got to get out of the house. So 6 months, I wasn't earning any income on this investment, and it was now, it's not a nonprofit, right? So I knew that I wasn't going to change who I was. This was not going to happen. So I had to get out of the long-term rental space. And then simultaneously, we find out my daughter, who was 1 at the time, has severe nut allergies. The number one food allergist in the world is in Long Beach, California. And so we get her into the program, and the studies of her blood work says we need to be there every 2 months for about 4 years. And so it's like, this is like the perfect, like, transition. I want to be in real estate. I want to use that stuff to cash flow. I love to travel. A lot of my corporate travel was California, and I freaking love California, especially coming from Detroit, Michigan. So this gets me back into California. But beyond that, and I can tell you what I missed the most about corporate is the relationship management side. I had clients that were not customers. They were friends. They became dear, dear friends to me. And we would just get together on weekends and go out to games at night. I mean, this was a part of who I am. I'm a relationship driven person, not a transactional person. And in the short-term rental space, when you play on the luxury side that I play on, you really get to go on the journey with your guests and you get to be part of their experience. And we do that. And we do that in a lot of ways. So this kind of took all of my passions and it meshed them together, and it solved a problem for us in that it gave us a place we needed to use every 2 months. So that led us to Huntington Beach, fell into a real estate mastermind, which is a whole different conversation, but get into mastermind groups, pay to be in the room, guys. It'll change your life. And so mastermind led me to Huntington Beach, 2 in Scottsdale, all simultaneously. And here we are, 16 months later. We've got 5 in Scottsdale. We got the 1 at Huntington Beach. We got 2 under contract right now in Orlando. And we're getting into a few other markets as we speak. But the goal is to be at 20 by the end of the year. And we're on a clear path to do that probably by June, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow.
That's great. That's great. Folk, it's funny because I'm sitting here listening to your landlord story. I have some long-term rentals myself, and I'm like, oh my God, I can relate, especially with it. I have someone now where they're going through tough times, and she got a kid, and I met the kid. The kid's got to be the most gorgeous kid in the world. I'm like, I can't I looked at my wife. I'm like, I can't put them out. There's nothing I can do, but I'm grateful that, we have some income coming in that's helping her out. She's getting back on her feet, which is a great thing, and then the W-2 thing, right? I was in the corporate world myself, and I relate to you too we were a vendor. So, we entertain with clients all the time, and you build those relationships and you build those friendships. But it's one thing I do want to ask you about, and it's about family, and it's about, a spouse kind of working together. I would think that regardless if it's, your wife or if it's your husband, one of the things I heard you say is your wife is an inspiration to you. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean, she is, man. I mean, she's given me the opportunity of a lifetime, and, because of her hard work and her dedication to her industry and to her passion, she was more than a wife. She was more than a mom. Is more than a wife, is more than a mom. And she is a beast. I mean, honestly, at what she does, she's in the legal industry, but she doesn't practice law much anymore. She's got a team that does that, and she disrupts her industry in a lot of ways with technology and other things. And so just watching her and her passion around what she does, she, again, gave me the opportunity to think, I was going to be trapped in my office in corporate for another 30, 40 years, to being able to transition and find my own passion as well, right? And so we've attacked life, man. I mean, she's my partner, and I could do this all day long. But I mean, one of the real and the biggest pandemics that we face in our society is the divorce rates, and right, and it's like, why is that? And you look at the way people approach the relationships and where could they get better. And that was one thing that we're really intentional about is, I'm not prideful. I'm not prideful that my wife made a lot more money than me while I was in corporate. I mean, just it's good. Like, it's all good, because for us, it was not who is doing what. It's what are our combined list of objectives, and how do we achieve those goals, and how do we conquer those and check our boxes together, right? So, you've got family, you got financial, you got all these things that go into your life. None of them are just always trending upwards. Sometimes, financials are trending upwards. Sometimes family needs a little work. Sometimes family is great and the financial needs a little work. And it's like, who's going to pick up which ball today? And we do a great job with that. Yeah, we're she's my best friend. She's everything. So anyways, I'm going to cry.
No, I mean, I like what you said as far as it's almost like a pandemic. Like there's a lot of couples that struggle with kind of balancing those things. And when you think about like categories of your life, and it's like financial, family, friends, career, and then how you decide on what is the priority and how much time to put into it. So maybe you can give like some tips for some of the listeners that struggle with that, and like maybe like 2 or 3 things that they can do with their significant other or spouse that could maybe help facilitate some of that communication.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make as a society is, and I don't think it's obviously not intentional. It's, my mom raised me a certain way, and that in that generation, in that genre and era of time, it was moms were home. That's what was happening all the time. Right. And so now I think what happens is we take these ideologies of this is how I was raised and this is how I'm going to raise my family. And it's like, it doesn't always translate. It's we raise our family and we raise our kids based on their future, not based on my past. And so I think that's the one thing is you have to understand, it drives me crazy when I hear people say, well, when I was growing up, I didn't have devices, so I'm not letting my kids have any devices. And look, I'm the ultimate device micromanager in my house. But it doesn't mean my kids don't get devices at all. It means they have to use them in a smart way. It means they have to use them in a way that's going to benefit them. But also it can't put them behind their generation so that when it comes to separation amongst their peers, that foundational knowledge and understanding is there. So the most important thing I would say is, get into your marriage, understand what your spouse really wants in their life and what's going to fulfill them. And don't manipulate that to say, how does that fit with me? Manipulate yourself to say, how do I fit within that? And your spouse should do the same. And that's the ultimate sacrifice. And then raise your families for their future, not for your past.
Man, that's beautiful.
I'm going to put that on a t-shirt, I think.
I love that.
Yeah,
No, I love.
Well, if you do, you got to send.
I'm going to use that
on that.
A copy. I mean, a t-shirt, bro, because what you just said honestly was phenomenal. We give that a round of applause by itself. Honestly, that's pretty cool, and it's interesting, because my son sometimes, my son's 10. And we got the kind of the same rules going on too. We don't want him to be behind in technology, but so during the week, he only had like a limited amount of time to use his device after school and stuff like that. And he, sometimes he gets upset, or whatever the situations are. But so just fast forward the story. Earlier, you mentioned that you have obviously some luxury short-term rentals. I believe like 5 or so, looking to get some more. Let me ask you a question. This word, right, is being used frequently.
Abused. It's abused.
It's called saturation. I know you probably hear it. So saturation, right? Like when you hear that word from, I guess, one of your people you just talked to or your mentees, how do you feel about markets being saturated? And what do you actually tell people that come to you and say, hey, I'm scared to get into the short-term rental game because of saturation?
Yeah, you have to understand the data. I mean, it's really simply put, right? So what I always give the example, actually, it's funny. I just put a reel out this morning on this, on my social media. So if you want to be in the restaurant industry, for instance, you don't not go to downtown Metro and open your restaurant because there's other restaurants there already, right? You still go and you still do that, but you have to differentiate yourself. You're not so it's pretty simple. I mean, you don't run from an industry. You just understand what does it take for me to differentiate myself. And then you do that. So for instance, right now we're opening up the Orlando market. We're just entering this market 3 miles from Disney. And why are we getting there? We're getting there because the data says if you go from 1 to 8 bedrooms, good luck. You're on a price war. It's saturated as hell. Don't do it, right? But the minute you get to 9 bedrooms or more, you're totally differentiated. The supply drops down big time. So you have to follow supply and demand. You have to understand what you're getting into. So we've got a couple of 12-bedroom homes there under contract. We're not going to have much, competition. We'll have some competition, but not as much. And so that, to me, that's what you have to follow. You have to understand your market, really do the research, really do the data. But it's not unlike any industry that you'd want to get into in general in business. You just better do your homework. This is why they teach you your SWOT analysis, right? Your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. So many people just say, well, I'm just going to do something and I'm going to try it and see if it works. Well, good luck. You're probably going to lose some money along the way, right? But if you take the time to do those SWOT analysis, if you take the time to really do the research, you're going to not guarantee anything, but you minimize your risks.
So I love that. I think you know your data, understand kind of what, you're getting yourself into, and then see if you can kind of stand out, in that sort of niche. And it looks like you've identified a particular niche within Orlando, because I know traditionally people will say Orlando, oh, that's going to be a tough market. But I love that you've, kind of found like a little niche within there. I guess a question for you regarding our listeners. So let's say our listeners are, hey, I don't know where to look. I'm not really sure. And you kind of touched a little bit on masterminds. So maybe walk us through the benefit of how that can accelerate your growth and how that's maybe even helped you with your growth.
So, masterminds, I'll tell you, the biggest mistake most people make with masterminds early on is they enter a mastermind and they say, what is the cost? And the truth is, it's not a cost, it's an investment. And it only becomes a cost if you go into these rooms and you don't understand how to utilize the power that's in the rooms, right? But when you're entering these masterminds, you're entering a room full of very high-level individuals that are very smart, that are very experienced, that are also investing in themselves alongside you investing in yourself, right? And so what we've learned is that we get into these rooms and we build relationships. We don't even ask. We just organically raise money because people are in there finding ways to deploy their capital, right? So it's like, who do I like that's in this room? And I'm going to go find them and say, hey, look, I really want to invest. How can I invest? So I've raised 10x what I've invested in these rooms because I just go in there and I'm me and I represent my brand and I represent our true core values. But beyond the money side, the money is one thing, but then beyond that, it's the education that you're getting, learning from people that have already been there, done that, gone through it, sharing with you. What I love about real estate, guys, I'll tell you, I tell everybody this, in real estate, there's nobody that's hiding their playbook. Being, this is my playbook and nobody can see it. No, it's like, I'm glad to share my playbook. I'm glad to share it with anybody because there's more real estate than people that I know, and we can all win. And so I think that's what I get out of these masterminds is just learning, man. I go in there, I'm vulnerable and I'm a sponge and I just take and I learn as much as I possibly can. And then of course I have to give and I have to add value. And that's where, the whole sharing the playbook comes into play.
Oh no, that's that's dead on, because I just was speaking out in the Poconos area to a group of people, trying to go 1-day training on short-term rentals. And at the end of it, a lady came up to me and just was like, why are you giving away all this information? And I'm just like, doesn't matter. Like, I want you to win. That's what I'm here for, to sit there and make sure that, you get it. So that's kind of like the playbook there. I'm taking all my plays and I'm just putting it on, for that training, a PowerPoint presentation and showing them that, let's get into the masterminds a little bit more, because you're right. People look at it the wrong way as a cost versus an investment, and understanding the worth, of a mastermind. So how important is it to get around like-minded people as well as individuals that's doing it at a very high level in the niche that you're in?
It's yeah, I mean, it's, what's your, God, man, I'm even stumbling on my words to answer that because it's a no brainer. I mean, you have to do it. I mean, it's, you know, what I learned, I got into my first mastermind and it was really valuable to me. And there were 8 founders of this mastermind. This was a room I probably was too early for. I didn't belong there. These were guys that were 500 million up in net worths, former athletes, big time, made big time exits in their business, all this. But beyond that, what I learned, and I watched it right in front of me, was there were 8 founders in this. 7 of the founders went to one of them for all their real estate advice and coaching. Like, I need to get in that guy's room because that's where all the other founders of this mastermind are going. I found out he had his own mastermind. And here was the kicker, is that first mastermind I was a part of, while it was awesome and amazing and great, I don't know that my core values really aligned with the core values of that room. And there were probably some extracurricular activities going on that really just didn't feel and fit for me. And when I got into this other one, the boardroom mastermind with Kent Clothier, which I'll be a member of for the rest of my life, the one thing I made sure of when I went and I asked to sit in as a guest at my first event, what I wanted to see is who are the cohort of individuals that I'm going through this with. Because as much as you got to like the founder of the mastermind, I learned you got to align with everybody else that's in the room. And so I sat in this room and I got to know everybody, family driven, growth minded, want to get better in their health, in their parenthood, in their spousal, relations, all that other stuff. And I said, this is a room that I want to be in. I want to do life with these people. Like, that was important to me. It wasn't just coming in here about money. It was, we're in there talking about getting 1% better every single day, which is my mantra. And I found it in that room. So I think it's important that when you find the mastermind you want to be a part of, it's not just the dude that found it or person that found it. It's the people that are in it. Do you want to be with those people? Do you trust those people? Are those people you want to bring your families around?
No, I love that. I think it's like thinking about your tribe, and it's like, is this going to be your tribe, and do your values align? Because that's so important. And you're going to spend, you have limited time, and you want to spend time with people that you align with in every way possible. And I know you talk, you do like the working out in the morning. You got the home gym. I see it. You're fit. You got the tight shirt. With the muscles bulging. I love that. And I guess. I know you've touched on this a bit before, like on other podcasts, but like maybe walk through like the value of even the accountability piece, where like you share your where you are in your business and maybe even like how people provide feedback and value around that.
It is. It's my favorite part of the mastermind I belong to. And as a matter of fact, I'm in the process of launching our own mastermind here in Detroit, and we're incorporating that. Because it is the game changer. So when we go in this mastermind, every quarter we spend 2 days together. And what happens is, as much as all the other stuff is value that I already talked about, right? The raising capital, the relationship building, the learning, all that. At every single one of these, we get up on stage for 30 minutes. The first 5 minutes is real quickly, right? As quickly as you can. What do you do? What are your numbers and what are your challenges? And then for 25 minutes, you open up the floor to everybody to basically just pour into you, right? Like, I can solve that problem. I know a guy that can do this. I can help you out with that. I can introduce you to this personality, but all these things. And so you get all this literally implementable, not just advice, but implementable advice. I think there's a real big, like I always talk about school versus mastermind. School, you learn a bunch of crap that just makes you sound smart. But at masterminds, you learn a bunch of stuff that you can take and implement right away. And you get all the stuff, you implement it into your business. And the accountability here is that, and this is the motivational part, where you actually make your money that you invest into the mastermind, is when you come back in 90 days and you get on stage, boy, you better have some new challenges, because if you have the same challenges, you're going to get some tough love right away. It is all love in that room, but they're honest, and they will tell you, like, we already solved this problem. Why are you back? Why are you telling us the same thing when we already solved it, right? So it holds you accountable, and in those 90 days alone, you should be able to get your investment back out of masterminds.
Boom, 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 boom. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I love that you said you get information that you can go back and implement, right?
Yeah.
And then you also being held to the fire, with the accountability, right? So they're giving you a shot. They're like, hey, listen, here's the information. Go back, do your thing. Here's a couple numbers you could call, email addresses. When you come back, if you happen to have that same issue or problem, boom, 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 they're going to get on you, man, about that accountability. So that's how important masterminds are. It's just another way. And I also enjoyed when you mentioned that your core values, because there's so many masterminds out there. And truth be told is there's so many good masterminds out there. And
True.
you have to find the one where you align with. And I'm happy that you mentioned what are your core values, right? And you also mentioned, are these people that I want to bring my family around, right? But let's get to core values, because I think a lot of people don't have that. So I guess, can you help, the listeners on how do you develop some core values? How do you go about it?
This is a great one, because I actually just went through a whole rebranding in our company. So here's, 16 months ago when we first got into this, it's short-term rentals. This is what we're doing. It's hospitality, right? So privacy, luxury, blah, 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 right? Just like, let's hurry up and launch this business. And what I realized is these are very generic, which, by the way, I'm not taking any of those out of my business, but they weren't like true core values. They're just, those are the kind of homes that we wanted, but they're not like real actual core values. Your core values are, how do you live your life every day? Because you can only put on a show for so long. So if you say these are our core values, but you're not really living and breathing and dying by those core values, eventually it's going to show like you're kind of a phony, you're kind of a fraud. You say these are your core values, but you are who you are at the end of the day. And by the way, core values can evolve and change. So when I was in the banking industry, 1 year, if it was really important for us to be raising deposits, our core values that year would be really heavily weighted around raising deposits, right? But if we were in a big lending year, then our core values would be changing. And so it's very common for core values to change and ebb and flow. So now what I really realized was, in order for me to live my life and live every single day and not have to work and not have to worry about differentiating between personal and company, it's really simple. I mean, I live on the premise of health, peace, love, and travel, HPLT. It's real simple for me. And by incorporating now health, peace, love, and travel as my core values for my company, we've now started integrating them into our homes very deeply and into our brand very deeply. And I'm not working. I don't work at all. I just get to really honestly live my life every single day now. And I don't have to put on the show. I don't have to script an answer for that question that you just asked me. It's just truly what we are. It's health, peace, love, and travel, right? Like, you got to take care of your health. You got to fix the peace in yourself. Like, I'm not talking about war and peace and all that shit. I'm talking about, like, internally, are you at peace with what you're doing every single day? Are you happy as a human being? And now by doing the health and the peace, you've solved a lot of internal issues you didn't even know were there. Now you're a great husband. Now you're a great father. Now you're a great friend, and you can give. And you're not worried about the guy that cuts you off on the street and losing your mind for 15 minutes and throwing Cokes out of the window and all that. I don't drink Coke. And then it's a responsibility we have to travel. Obviously, my business is set up around traveling, and we cater to travelers. But I believe that as human beings, it's our responsibility to travel. You have to go, you have to learn, people. I mean, I didn't pick where I was born. That just happened. There was I didn't choose that. But I do get to choose how much of the world I see, and that's incumbent on me as a human being. So,
no, I love those values: health, love, peace, travel. I mean, that resonates with me. Health, of course, health is wealth, and then love. I'm a firm believer of the golden rule, and treat people how you want to be treated. And there's so many differences out there. But I think there's so many similarities that if people just looked at the similarities, we would get along a lot better. And I think peace, like a lot of like self-care and mental health, even like you said, like the inner turmoils and those sort of things. I think a lot of people struggle with that, and of course travel. Like I love travel. Like it's like one of the things I'm passionate about, because like you said, that's how you learn. I think so many people live within the same community and they never leave. And, just you learn so much more by seeing other places and how so many other people live so differently. So I think that's a cool thing about like the short-term rental space is you get to do a lot of that. So pretty cool. So
No doubt.
As far as like structuring, like you talked about, doing the partnerships and raising capital, and let's say there's we have listeners who they're like out of liquidity, and then they're in the mindset of, okay, like I'm done, I can't really grow anymore. Like, what are some alternatives for somebody who maybe has the experience but they don't have the capital?
Yeah. I tell everybody all the time, they're the 3 sexiest letters in real estate. You guys know what they are. What are they?
OPM.
OPM?
OPM.
For people's money.
Nothing like
People's money. So you can run out of your own money in real estate. It's pretty easy to do that, right? But you can't run out of other people's money. And so that is a function of, again, getting into the right rooms, finding investors that have enough money that they want to invest. And whether, for a lot of reasons, they can't invest that portion of their money, whether it's they've got a company they're running, a job that they have, or they have enough of their own real estate projects going on and they've got a pocket of money that they're not just going to get to this year. And they need to deploy that capital so it's not eating a hole in their pocket, because you guys know as well as I do, money in your account is costing you money. It's not earning you any money, right? So like I would say, we're way more asset rich in our household than we are cash rich. I mean, we're basically, I try to be as cash broke as possible. And so you find people that have the money, you build real good relationships, and don't force on them what you want. Understand what it is that they want. And when you understand what they want as the end buyer, then you can go and you can find that, right? So go talk to investors. What will you invest in? What does it make? What kind of, how much money do you have? Oh, you got that much money. How much? So what's the needed return? That's what you would need in order for you to invest. Got it. Go find it. The market's open, right? Zillow, agents, go network, go meet people, go find opportunities. When you find those deals, then you bring it back to this investor. Hey, remember that time you said you had this much money and you only wanted this much return? What if I gave you that return plus 1 and I found this deal? Would you do it? Done. Right? So, start with the end in mind, work backwards, and then go solve your problems.
Fantastic. All right. So let's stick with the 3 sexiest letters in real estate, the OPM, right? So let's just take a fairly new person who's trying to get out there, right? They're not too knowledgeable, but they're taking action. I guess from just the standpoint of an individual who don't have that much money, can you give them some tips of where they can start, where they can go to start to sit there and get around individuals that can invest with them?
No doubt. So the first and the easiest and the most overlooked, family and your friends, just your own interpersonal network. And everybody gets so uncomfortable with that, right? Well, I can't go ask this person and that person, and we got a good relationship. What if I risk that relationship? First of all, this is not a retail store you're opening where you've got to worry about, investing in a bunch of inventory that you're going to have to liquidate if the business fails. And that person's going to have to trust you to show up from 9 to 5. Or you say, well, you're still going to have to operate the short-term rental, but it's not that kind of business. This is a real estate. This is an asset-backed investment that we're making together. And worst case scenario, we can always make an exit out of the asset if we need to, right? So there's very little risk in the sense of that kind of investing. And then B, and more so on top of that, it's, you've just got to go and do your homework, do your research. There's a lot of free research that you can do. And then there's a lot of paid. You can hire a mentor. I mentor, you guys probably mentor. There's probably a ton of mentors out there. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of, I mentor out of passion. I don't charge a lot in my mentorship. I mentor because I gave a lot of free mentorship. And all the free mentorship I gave, you guys know how many of those guys started an Airbnb? 0. Because in all the ones that you don't make them write a check, they do nothing with it. They got no accountability. They got nothing to go earn. They got nothing. So the minute I started charging for my mentorship, man, I got people and I got action being taken. I mean, this is a Pittsburgh mug. This is a gift from one of my mentees because they take action. They, like the minute you write a check, you got to light your ass on fire and you got to go earn your money, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't charge a lot. I just charge enough to know that somebody's invested in learning. So learn how to do it. find your family and your friends that have a bunch of money, because it happens all the time. Think about the chef that wants to open a restaurant but can't afford it. He goes and finds Uncle Doctor and says, Uncle Doctor, you got a bunch of money. You want to put your money to work. Can you be the money guy and I'll run it and it will be 50-50? Sure. Well, if it works there, it can work in real estate just alike.
No, I love that, because I think there's like a problem solving approach. Like there's a problem. Somebody has money sitting in the bank and it's not, maybe it's not making any interest and what, 0%, 1%. And you can, give them 10%, 20%, whatever it is. I guess question is, so like what sort of structures, like say I want to have the listener has this uncle that they know has money. And so what would be like a reasonable structure to even present? Because I think that the creative piece, I think a lot of people struggle with as far as knowing what to do.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, it just depends on what kind of deals you're doing, right? I mean, but, so for a turnkey, let's just call it a turnkey real estate, short-term rental. We're not talking about doing rehabs and all this kind of stuff, just a turnkey property. It's really simple. Finance as much as you can. The down payment, you get the investor to put the down payment, furnish the property, all that, and you go 50-50. You're running it. It's a very hands-on, very active business, the short-term rental space. And in return for it being very active, there's cash flow, right? It's not a long-term rental property where it's just very, very slow and very quiet, and you don't want to hear from anybody. You are constantly, I mean, you guys know this. I mean, we're constantly got our phone in our hand.
Right. Oh, yeah.
To booking increase, all this. So, 50-50 on the asset, 50-50 on the net revenues. And then you can also negotiate in there a percentage for your property management for the time that you put in for property management, right? One of the things that I make sure I do is I put milestones in there that say I can't sell the property until XYZ has happened. Because, so I'll tell you guys a story. So my real estate attorney, who's not my wife, by the way, I was very intentional. We did that because as I raised money, I never wanted anybody to feel kind of cornered by me working with my wife, right?
Yeah.
So obviously my wife is the brains and she behind contracts and she reviews anything that we put out. But, we thought for the benefit of our investors, it made sense for us to have somebody independent. And so I was working with my attorney and we put together our operating agreement, what it's going to look like when I bring out investors. And so I looked at it, and after we did a final review, I looked at her. I said, we could close on this with this. We could close it on a property. I could sell the next day and get 50% equity. And she's like, yeah, you could. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like I'm protecting my investor. So we need to change some language in there. We need to add some milestones that have to happen before I can actually sell the property. And she said, well, why don't we just leave it the way it is and let the investor negotiate those terms in there. I was like, no, we know it's an issue already. Let's just go ahead and clear that up and get it done, right? Like, again, got to go back to, I got to sleep good at night. So she fixes it, does all that. 2 weeks later, she's like, hey, my dad's in town. I'd like to introduce you to him. Can we have lunch? I said, sure. This is my attorney. So we sit down for lunch and her dad does a deal with me.
No way.
Wow.
Well, and it's because your character, when you stay ethical, when you stay with your integrity, when you stay and you keep your investors at the core and you protect your investors proactively, all these things kind of line up. So I know that's not exactly the question that you guys asked me, but I wanted to make sure that I told that story along with the structure. Like when you set these up, understand that setting them up, not just for yourself, but so that your investors can win too, it's going to pay you back 10 times over.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that.
And, and the big thing I heard in there is that, listen, sometimes just doing good business can bring you more business, right? And that's what happened right there. So that's absolutely amazing. Folks, man, we can go on and on and on. And hopefully we can have you back on, share a little more of that OPM, right? But until then, what does find your freedom means to you?
To do what you want, when you want, how you want, and most importantly, free up your time so you can be a parent. I mean, guys, time goes by so fast. For me, it is, I wanted to make sure that I am here for my kids. So like when my kids are going to school, 8:30 to 3 o'clock, I'm locked in. I'm kicking ass as hard as I can because at 3:30, I'm the one at school. I'm picking them up. I'm doing homework with them. I'm having lunch with them. I'm parenting because it's exactly what I want to do. I got so many chances in my life in the future where I can reinvent business, start new businesses, do all that. I only get one chance to raise my kids, man, and I'm here for it.
Dude, I love that. No, that's like, that speaks to me 100%. So I feel like I'm in the same journey, you know, where our kids are in a similar age kind of brackets, and for sure. So I guess, you know,
kids and all that. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I guess, you know, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram is always the best way. It's my name, Fouad, Fouad, Bazzi, Bazzi _ Airbnb. And I know I got to find a better tag. Easier tag.
I think it would be like Bazzi the Baddie. Like, I don't know.
Bazzi the baddie, or you know, I thought about Foo and B maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
I gotta think of something easier, but Fouad Bazzi at _ Airbnb. And you know, I love connecting with people on social media. It's the easiest way. I get to know you, you get to know me. So
That's great, man. That's great. So listen, you know, one of the things we love to do here is we love to, rattle some speakers and puncture some air drums. So, you know, in this session right here, you know, for the listeners, we guys go. Oh, he's getting ready. He's setting up for those that can't see him. He is setting up to give the biggest boom there is, right? So what we're going to do is on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to sit there and say boom in a uniform manner. All right. Let me know if you guys are ready. Fellas, ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's ready. All right. 1, 2, 3.
Boom.
Awesome. Check this out right here, man. We just had an amazing friend, because we don't do guests here at Find Your Freedom. We only bring on friends, and we want you to tune into his story because he just is loaded with it, especially the inspiration that he has with his spouse. You know, that's something special that you, me, all of us just want, and you want to hear that specifically. Now, you need something from us, and what you need is a freedom kit. And we got that for you to sit there and help you find your freedom. So it's easily downloadable. You can go to www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. That's right. findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Now listen, we want you to listen to this episode, give an honest 5-star review, and remember to subscribe and share this with everyone. Share this with your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, all of your coworkers, the ones you like and the ones you don't like. Make sure that they listen, all right? Until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, talk to you soon.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.